Hey everyone, Pablo here and welcome to a new video. Today we'll be reviewing Storm's End. Today we'll be reviewing Storm's Front by Jim Butcher. Now this is one of the most, let's say, one of the most famous series in the fantasy community. Something that certainly hasn't gone under my radar for the time I've been involved in the community. I just never got time to get around to it. There was a lot of expectations built in from a lot of reviewers and people that I can really trust, namely Goblin himself and Patrick Rothfuss as well, is a big advocates for Butcher's series. So round about the mid-August, when I finished the Eye of the World, I had this chunk of time there, sort of a bit of a hangover from the book and recuperating from a really big undertaking. So I thought, I need something snappy, I need something easy to read to get me onto the next sort of transition to a different sort of thing, different book. And I had it on Audible, so I said, you know what, let's give this a go. In terms of character, it was really interesting to go from a third person limited POV, although the Eye of the World has a bit of an omnipotence to it, an omniscient narrator along with a third person POV, and that changing that to the first person POV was refreshing, and I think the narrator did a very good job in getting into the mind of Dresden, and I can almost imagine him telling the story to me. So that was a really good aspect of my experience of the story. I think the way that Butcher wrote Dresden, he makes him very likable. He is very hyper competent and very intelligent. He's got lots of things, lots of secrets. Obviously, he's a wizard.
I'm a what?
And he is open about it in a world that, in this sort of world, it's a very whimsical presentation of fantasy, where it's not a secondary world. This is downtown Chicago, so it's rooted in our own existence, and that plays a lot of interesting aspects into the world building. But I'll get into that later. I think Dresden is very likable. I think Dresden is very charismatic, and you really get invested in the story. You really want him to succeed in whatever he's doing, whatever troubles he gets himself into or has to get out. There is my only qualm with this book, and it's something that it was the ground a bit. It was a bit grinding, and it's got to do with character, especially female characters. Not so much with their depiction, but more of how their place in the story and how they are presented to us through the narration. And it just felt as though every single time a female came into the narrative, it was a woman came into the character. It was always, oh yeah, and she's cute, and she's a bit stocky and short hair, but cute in her own way. Like it's very sexualized, the way that the female characters are presented, and I don't know if this is a conscious choice on Butcher's side to integrate it as an aspect of the character of Dresden, or if this is a bit of a pernicious male gaze issue weaving into the narration. Because I think the first 3 or 4 female characters that we are presented with is either don't do that. They're either a romantic interest of Dresden or a potential romantic interest of Dresden, if you know what I mean. I think also another thing to say about this is I don't think it is excusable, if you will, but it was published a while back. Am I recording this? And perhaps the demographics of fantasy have changed, and for Butcher, this book was written for that 16, 17 nerdy boy teenager that that played that was very involved with the fantasy community. That sort of, I don't want to say pandering, but I think it was perhaps marketed and orientated to that kind of audience, and it doesn't quite hold up in the present. That was my only, my biggest criticism with the book, is the way that female characters are portrayed. There, it has been said. I believe that it needed to be said, and I don't want to listen any, oh, he's getting too woke. This is not wokeness, this is just a fact. So it remains to decide whether I've got this dichotomy, whether it was a conscious decision as part of the character, because obviously if Dresden doesn't know how to, it's a 20-something year olds are horny all the time. And obviously he's not good with women, so it's always and he's a male, he's a boy, so it's always there. So I don't know if this is a conscious decision with him, or just an unconscious male gaze issue with the author. It remains to be seen as I follow on with the series, okay? The plot is very solid, very tight and packed and neat. It's sort of like the story of and I haven't seen Goodfellas, so I don't know, but like a mafia film, and fantasy woven into it. And you've got two subplots. You've got him trying to fix something, but also there's a looming, deeper, more dangerous thing going on with the White Council, so the coalition of wizards of the world, because he's not in good terms with the rest of the wizards in the world. They don't see him being an openly, an open wizard.
But I'm just Harry.
Anyway, you've got these two plot lines that run along together, and then there are points they touch, but they keep separately most of the times. And then this is something very, very satisfying when you're reading a book. You've got several threats, and then seemingly they stay out, and then they join, and then you've got the catharsis, you've got the climax of the book. Very, very extremely entertaining read that you can get through in an afternoon. It's not very long, so that's again a good change from The Eye of the World. For its world building, I think what I was saying before applies. It's very interesting the way that it's not a secondary world, so this is our world, but inexplicable things of the paranormal, things that have stayed in the collective mind as sort of that supernatural thing that's all explained by magic and by wizards and by fairies and stuff like that. And the way that he integrates that with the narrative is really interesting. Also, the way that it's presented is there's no exposition, it's always part of the narrative, and Butcher accomplishes for you to be interested in his world, and for you to wanting to keep reading. I want to keep reading. I want to know what. I'm guessing there will be a lot of backstory into why Dresden has got to the point that he is now. But I want to see what happens to him, because the way that he gets out of things, and the way that he is very conscious of his own limitations, and that's good as well. He's not Gandalf. The magic system it's got limitations. It's not Sanderson, but it's got rules, and I want to keep exploring those rules. I don't have much to say about the prose, because this is not the name of the wind. It does its job. It's not mega literary, it's not verbose, it's not over complicated or flowery or it wants to be cunning. It's really good prose. It takes you along the story, it's to the point, and it's very relatable. It's very colloquial at times, using words like I can't remember, but a lot of colloquialisms, and that's why I think that it works well with the story, because it plays to that effect, to the effect of Dresden telling you the story through the narrator. I don't know who the narrator is, but I think he did a really good job. And the way that the cadence and the pacing that he put in the narration, it sort of, I think it blended. It was a really good blending with the personality of Dresden, or the personality of Dresden that I got from the story. All in all, I am my curiosity has been piqued, and piqued. And although it's got its flaws, because it's just glaring for me, especially I think because I have been writing from a female POV in my book, the book that I have just finished, and a lot of thought goes into, what the motivations and difficulties and how different aspects of the character defines the personality, and none of it, because in my case my female character is not the same sort of characters, no young girls, young women that can be sexual interest. This isn't not that Damira cannot be a sexual interest, but she's old, she's 60 something, so sex plays no part into her arc. So I should say the carnal aspect of sex doesn't play a part in her arc. So maybe that's why I was over analytical because of that fact. But anyway, as I was saying, I'm very curious, and I know I've heard, I think it was Daniel Green that said that the beginning of the series is not the best, but I'm excited to see where it goes, and I will definitely keep reading. That is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe for more content like this, and I will see you in the next one.